What do Rambo, the Toxic Avenger, and RoboCop all have in common? If you said they all had a cartoon series and toy lines, you'd be correct. If you said, these movies are all rated R, they aren't for kids, why would you make toys out of them? You would be more correct. I'm Dan Larson, and this is 10 R-Rated Toy Lines for kids. In 1979, Kenner attempted to follow up the phenomenal success of their Star Wars toys with a compatible line of figures from Ridley Scott's Alien. Due to the poor reception of the 18-inch collector scale figure, the 3 3/4-inch Alien figures never made it past the prototype stage. That failure didn't stop Kenner from trying again in 1992 with the release of Alien 3, also rated R. Kenner managed to release 4 different waves of figures before the line was finally jettisoned into space in 1995. In 1982, Sylvester Stallone took on the role of John Rambo in First Blood. While it received mixed critical reviews, it was a box office hit and spawned a sequel, Rambo First Blood Part 2, in 1985. Flush with all that Cabbage Patch Kid money, Coleco was looking to inject some life into their boys' toy business, since they were getting killed by Mattel's He-Man and Hasbro's G.I. Joe. Enter Rambo and the Force of Freedom, the perfect mix of He-Man's shirtless muscles and G.I. Joe's nationalistic propaganda, patriotism. The cartoon ran for 65 episodes and saw the release of 2 full waves of figures, vehicles, and accessories before finally being dishonorably discharged in 1987. In 1984, James Cameron's The Terminator took the top box office spot for 2 weeks, which prompted the fast-tracking of a sequel. So when Terminator 2 Judgment Day was released in 1991, Kenner, again, scooped up the license and started making figures. The Terminator 2 line was driven by action gimmicks as opposed to articulation, or accessories, or sculpting, or paint apps, or likenesses, or fun. And speaking of gimmicks, most of them are things the Terminator can do with his arm or his ability to explode, like Techno Punch Terminator and Hot Blast Terminator. No one bought them the first time through, so the Terminator 2 line was rebranded and repackaged as Terminator 2 Future War, and then again as Terminator 2 3D for sale at Universal Studios in conjunction with the T2 Battle Across Time ride. Police Academy opened in 1984, and while the 5 sequels were all rated PG-13 or PG, the original film was rated R. By 1989, the characters had become so two-dimensional and cartoonish that it was likely an experiment in irony that prompted the development of Police Academy, the animated series. And if there's a cartoon, there has to be supporting toy line produced by Kenner? Really? Again? The line, featuring lots of gimmicks and wacky accessories, did well enough for 2 waves of figures, 2 vehicles, and 2 playsets before Kenner executives revealed that the entire line was just a joke and they had never intended for anyone to actually purchase them. In 1984, an independent film called The Toxic Avenger hit the scene. While technically unrated, it was a violent, gory B-movie with some nudity and lots of scenes that are absolutely not appropriate for children under the age of 18. That said, once the film found its cult audience, it was followed by 4 sequels and a musical stage production. Hey, remember the 90s when pollution was the enemy? Playmates Toys was looking for another line to sell alongside their successful Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so development began on Toxic Crusaders, a cartoon that would emphasize the anti-pollution and superhero themes of the Toxic Avenger while sidestepping all the gory violence and nudity. 1 wave of 9 figures hit the shelves before the show and the line were canceled, but that theme song's still stuck in my head. In 1985, Arnold Schwarzenegger, second time on the list, starred in Commando. Nothing says kids action figure line like Vigilante, Soldier of Fortune, Justice. Especially when pesky foreign nationals take Samantha Maselli hostage. Not cool, El Presidente. Not cool. Another muscle-bound, shoot-'em-all-to-death 80s action flick, it's obvious that a toy line wouldn't be far behind. Lacking an animated series to support it, everyone else passed, leaving Diamond toy makers, who don't exist as far as the internet is concerned, to scoop up the license. Through late 1985 and into 1986, they put out a line of 4-inch figures and 8-inch figures that were probably available at your finer gas stations. An R-rated sci-fi flick starring Arnold Schwarzenegger means toy gold, and that's why Kenner jumped at the chance to make Predator figures. The only question is, why did they wait so long? Predator came out in 1987 and Predator 2 came out in 1990. Kenner's figures didn't hit the shelves until 1994. What gives, Kenner? Strike while the splattered guts are hot. Perhaps Kenner was caught in the awkward middle stage of their corporate life. Not a boy, not yet a man. You know you're not supposed to be playing with toys, but you still love science fiction. And toys. The collector market didn't exist the way it is now back in 1994, so it's possible that Kenner was trying to find a way to play to both audiences. Films that appeal to the adults that still wanted to collect action figures, but packaged in a way that would justify producing the quantities needed to sell at a reasonable price point. Also, the Aliens figures were already on the shelf, so why not go all in? Predator ran for 4 waves before having all the remaining product dumped in non-US markets. 1987 saw Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop earn its R rating due to graphic violence, adult language, and intense action. Was there nudity in RoboCop?
Yeah.
There was nudity in RoboCop? Why don't I remember it? I gotta start watching the original cuts of these films. Thanks, TNT. And of course, the concept was too much to resist for, wait for it, Kenner. The cartoon put less emphasis on RoboCop shooting criminals in the balls and more emphasis on him throwing them around. I swear you'd think the guy gets paid by the thrown criminal. The cartoon ran for 12 episodes in 1988, and the toy line, which hit in 1989, managed to squeeze in 17 figures and an impressive assortment of vehicles and roleplay accessories before being deactivated. In 1993, Mattel beat Kenner to the Demolition Man license because if you can't make a toy line out of an R-rated Schwarzenegger property, Stallone will do. And when history's greatest cop and its most notorious villain can't hit each other with any of the thousands of bullets they fire, well then, Demolition Man might as well be a dramatic retelling of a children's bedtime story. What's the brain face ball-breaking duck pain-in-the-ass harm? Oh, is it the language? Mattel did the Demolition Man line on the cheap, recycling molds from both their He-Man in Space and Last Action Hero series. But even on the cheap, they only released 7 figures, 6 of which were just variations of Simon Phoenix and John Spartan. No Otho? Last on the list is Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers from 1997, which seemed tailor-made for cartoons and action figures. Science fiction, graphic violence, adult language, nudity, xenophobia, laser fights, Doogie Howser, giant bugs, patriotism, and Michael Ironside. Kids love Michael Ironside. Alright, I love Michael Ironside. While there was a Creepovision CG animated series in 1999 called Starship Troopers Roughnecks, the toys were released in conjunction with the film in 1997. Galoob released a line of 5¼ action figures as well as a series of ships and bugs as part of their Action Fleet series. Were you a kid that had these toys? Did you see the films? Did your parents know that you saw the films? On the other hand, were you a parent who let your kids watch these movies and then bought them the toys? Did you buy the toys without seeing the films? Let us know your story by leaving a comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching.